Story about SBL. One of, I guess, my mentors that I looked up to personally, Serena. She's now in university. She was on our student senate for the Toronto District School Board for a couple of years now. Every time we were talking about the best model for student engagement, every single time, without fail, she'd bring up SBL, just given the fact that the model worked so well, and she volunteered her time over the summer at Osgood, as you saw in the video, and I didn't know to the extent of how comprehensive SBL worked until today, with the whole students actually within the schools post-secondary as well. So it was. Thank you so much for, I guess, teaching me something new about SBL that I didn't know. And I guess we're moving right now into the questions and answers period. And I think for me, while I was sitting and listening to the presentations, one thing that, one question I had, and it kind of links for all three of the presenters, is how, other than school projects, do you think we can start to involve students to start to take positive action? Because as was mentioned a couple times, social media is a huge tool at our disposal now, and it isn't required for someone to tell us to do something or take action. How can we start to encourage students to, I guess, make that move because they have the capabilities? If the cause is worth advocating for, and social media is there to connect people who are like-minded or who have the same views, why aren't we seeing more students, I guess, take that action to go change the world in the next big thing that they want to address? I don't know. Any of you can answer, but
well, I'd say for myself, just speaking off the opportunity space I was talking about, the biggest thing and the best way that parents and families and teachers can get involved is truly getting to know the student and making that effort. As we move further on into time, 21st century, there's a whole different plethora of needs and issues that are now being highlighted in the media and with our students, and getting to know that. So for myself, I think I forgot to say this, but all five of us we resided in Toronto community houses. We were all part of similar communities, and our teacher had expressed us later that he intentionally did that because he knew that this was a part of our roots and it meant something to us. So by taking action on something that really was held dearly to my heart, you put in more of your effort. It means more. It's 3 years later and I'm still talking about it, so obviously he did his job right. But yeah.
I think, just like from my experience, just seeing, having that mentor to guide me allowed me to get that leadership role to become a mentor, to start making change. So I feel like if you have that one person you can relate to, that one person that inspires you, I feel like you can definitely make a change and you can definitely start. And I'll be also like combining with that person, like helping that person, like doing small steps so that you can like kind of gain leadership skills on your own and then like make that change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think as well, like not every student is an activist. Like I think not every student is going to like want to change the world or take on something huge. But I think the fact that in my experience in a lot of my classes now, like that I'm in high school, there's a lot of like just base level like assumptions that students like are not having like interesting like conversations about like what's going on in the world, what's going on in their lives. I've been in a lot of situations where it's because a lot of classes like intersect with own students' experiences and parts of their identity, and there's a lot of times, especially in like history class or English class, where I find it's like the teacher is like talking at us and there's no room for like student conversation or student input in terms of like how that relates to their own experiences or their own ideas, their own opinions. So in that way, I found that there's, in terms of in the classroom, there's not enough room for students to like actually talk about what they care about and talk about what they're passionate about, which like at that level, then many people feel like they don't have that opportunity or that space to then actually do something about what they care about. So I think there needs to be more space for like more space and like more understanding that like young people actually are talking about things that are important and current.
Yeah, I think the room for awareness and to create that atmosphere where we can be engaged by one person or multiple people to spark that change is very necessary, because I know someone famous once said it only takes one person to start a change. It doesn't take me speaking to, or any of you speaking to, groups of hundreds of thousands. As long as you impact one person, that one person will then be motivated to go talk to someone else and get them involved in it. And I think that passion has been identified in all four of you. So I guess we'll move on to any questions, and we can open up right there.
Thank you for sharing, all of you. It's really so inspiring to hear your voices and enthusiasm. And my question kind of is actually written it before you shared your last statement, so I wouldn't forget. But this came up in our session this morning when we were talking about measuring what matters. What do you do, or how do you handle it when you enter a learning environment that is more traditional, after you've been having these wonderful experiences to advocate and learn about real issues? Like how do you navigate that in your work?
Yeah, I'll just go first. It's difficult because I entered high school with this kind of, I went to an alternative elementary school for like part of my elementary school years, and then when I switched to my other school was also I had like really great teachers, and so I never really had that like always 100% like traditional learning. But like my expectations were like very high, and I was like kind of naive, I think. But like it's very difficult, I find, also because like in terms of the activism that Leah and I have done, I find a lot of the time people like to think that like we are like an exception to the rule of like what young people are like. That like because we're passionate and we enjoy talking about this stuff, or because we're like particularly articulate about these issues, that like that's like who we are. So I find it very easy to speak up in class and to talk in class about issues that I care about, but it's not the same for like other people. But I try my hardest to like talk to my teachers and to suggest things, but yeah, it's definitely a switch. I don't know how anyone feels about that.
I don't know. I personally have discovered, or I'm part of this other program outside of school. It's called TKS. It's an entrepreneurship program, and they kind of heavily focus on different styles of learning. There's a wide variety of courses that are offered online, and one thing that the course or the program I'm in suggests is to go out and learn whatever you want, right? So I'm doing a course on coding while I'm doing a course on cryptocurrency and how to do like great graphic designs at the same time while I'm doing French, English, philosophy, and data. And I guess that transition that from traditional learning is really prevalent, because when you know that there are different styles of learning, when you know there are more effective ways of doing things, when you come into a class where you're kind of restricted not to open your laptop or your phone or listen to music while you're studying, and those are all of the things that help you succeed at home or in other areas where you're doing the exact same activity, but it's not at school, is very, very difficult, because that understanding of where we're at in terms of what we know our learning should be and where the teachers are at doesn't match up. And I think that there's a lot of work that I guess I have been trying to advocate for to address that gap between the understanding of those different learning styles with the tools that are at our disposal through just 3 or 2 different devices, your computer and your phone. It's not like I'm using a different thing for listening to music or anything like that. They're all compact in one, like in 2 devices, and to understand that is kind of different, but I guess for us it's pretty easy. I don't know if you guys wanted to comment on that question.
No, but just I'm just saying for what you said. Exposure is definitely one big thing. I feel like if students, and if we only know option A and B, we won't know about C, D, E, and F, and so forth, so on. But I think the best thing that we can do is just give them the knowledge they need, and from there on, let them take the steps they need. But at that point, it's all about the passion and where their heart lies. Right?
Yeah, and the first time I was actually introduced was through multiple intelligences, so like how you learn, and that was actually through SBL because they do like a little survey to all the mentees to see like what best fits their learning style. So how do they? Some people learn through moving, some people learn through listening, and just making sure that they know which one they learn best just allows them to like further their like make sure that they understand everything that they're learning and like all that.
I think a question I have for the both of you, given that you both are in university, do you see that difference of classes being more accepting to the different learning styles? Because I know on our side over here, schools aren't that accepting, where they're starting to become a bit more warm to the idea of having more learning. But in university, is there that difference where teachers are engaging on different levels of learning styles, or is it the same, I guess, throughout high school and university?
I feel like the biggest difference would just be that as opposed to high school where you're kind of given the information, told the procedures, and then you know what the expected result is, with university it's more so just you're given the information, and from that point it's on you. The professor will look forward to what you bring to the table, but it's really about the individual themselves. I feel like what would be needed in high school is something similar to that, but just more so more guidance in terms of the way that teachers approach the students. But yeah, that method definitely does work as well.
For me, I think that it's really different from high school because although we have like the teachers being there for you in like their smaller classes, university classes are huge. Well, my classes are really big, so it's like the teachers will like do their method of like teaching, and it's like you have other methods to like learn the way you do. So they'll put like a podcast. So like if you learn through like auditory, like you can listen to the podcast later on. Like they do presentations, so like visual. But like if there's someone who learns through moving, they're not able to help me with that. So
Lots of that's there are some, I guess, barriers to some styles of learning, but I guess that does answer the question. Yes.
Oh, okay. So thank you all so much. I was just smiling, and I was really excited to hear what all of you have done and what all of you continue to do. I think we need more young people like you all, and I hope more young people in the school system in Ontario see the need to be able to, I guess, put their feet on the ground and take their space and assets and try to start to inform the kinds of future and reality we must all have. So thank you all. I hope you keep pushing. So I have a question for you, Sahana. Is it Sahana? Yeah, and a question for all of you. So I wanted to hear more about the outcome of your project, because what I read was that it was supposed to help improve student enrollment. And like you said, what most of us hear about Jane and Finch isn't all rosy things. So I guess I want to know, how did that go? And if you were to advise, like say, policymakers or practitioners, what needs to be done? Like what don't people understand when it comes to engaging people in the Jane and Finch area? And of course the social realities there, that is real, but I know there are lots of things that has contributed to what the situation is right now. So if you were to advise policymakers, practitioners, what perspective do they need to keep in mind to be able to be it improve more student enrollment, or even just create a schooling system that's actually responsive and helpful to the people in the Jane and Finch area? And then to all of you, what were the challenges you all faced in doing all the projects that you worked on, including you, Steven, very eloquent advocate.
So to answer your first question, in terms of the outcome, aside from several tears being shed by all of us as to how intense that assignment was, we did bring forth a plan to a board of directors who had attended our final presentation, as well as our principal and other trustees as well. And we understand that in terms of implementing something as amazing as SBL or any other programs, it would require a great amount of funding and attention and care, and realistically it would take some time to implement that. But in terms of immediate cause and action, just changing your approach towards students and education was needed. And just taking into account the current situation of these communities and the fact that the city is putting forth plans that are forcing families to leave. And families that have left their countries and have built generations upon generations of culture and history here are now being forced to leave, and that's going to affect the way the students think and the way that they approach school. And I would say that all that I would ask of policymakers and people who are higher up is to empathize, because I can give a man who sits in his office 9 to 5 at a super high skyscraper building, tell him what to do. But if they're not putting themselves in our shoes and understanding that, we come from certain communities, we come from certain upbringings, we're not all capable of doing the same things in terms of finances and the way that the skills we're equipped with, and just making plans and policies that take that into account. And furthermore, understanding that we have to prove the media wrong. We're more than just a group of kids who come from a community that is known for crime and gang violence. And yes, there are many people who fall victim to these stereotypes, but there are just as many, if not more, who are succeeding and trying their best to do more than were expected. And I mean, just to share a story, when I went to that basketball game, I was actually talking to a bunch of kids, and I was like, so what do you want to do? And a lot of them were like, I don't know, be like Kobe Bryant. But aside from that, there are many people who had dreams of, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be on like a sports broadcaster, and there are all these dreams, and it makes you think, like, where did that get lost for my friends that are now 20, 19, 18? Where did that passion get lost? And it was, they let reality hit them, and they, they backed down. And for some of us, they don't have a choice. It is what it is. But as mentors and as teachers and influencers, I feel like that responsibility lies on us to influence these kids. We're here now. You can make it to this point, if not much, much farther than I'm at right now. Yeah.